You're muted, by the way.
All right, we are streaming and recording.
Okay, now let us call the meeting to order. The first order of business is that the next meeting date is September 22 at 8:30. Next matter is let us swear in the staff. Would all those on the staff please identify themselves?
So with staff today is Louis Taba, Christopher Lohr, Wendy Boots, Laura Baker Morris, Dan Bleckschmidt, and Daniel Moorhead. I'm Louis Taba.
Would you raise your right hand? You swear to affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do.
I do.
I do.
And we assume that those who were sworn in were the ones who were on the list that Louis just read. Does that work for you, Christopher, or whoever's taking the minutes?
Yeah, that works.
Good. Next matter, let's go ahead and do a roll call of commission who are present. Who wants to start? Danny?
Good morning, present.
Ted Hardesty, present.
Otto Beatty, present.
Jana Maniaci, present.
Tony Slanek, present.
Mike Lusk, present.
Steve Whitman, present. Any others?
I don't think I'm on mute.
Okay, I think that represents the quorum. Next matter of business, the overview of the hearing format. I'm not going to go over that again. That's on the agenda. I think Christopher went through that well, so I think everybody should understand that. With that, I guess what we will do is go ahead with the next applicant, or the first applicant, and let's just proceed with that. Louis?
Yes. Yes. Okay. Let me pull up the screen here. Okay, so the first applicant is 427 Neal Avenue. This is the variance for the billboard. I have some highlighted sections I'll just go over here. So the Downtown Commission is being asked to provide a recommendation to City Council on the council variance request in the form of a motion to support the requested variance or not support the requested variance. We're not actually issuing a COA at this meeting, so keep that in mind. The proposal appeared before the Downtown Commission at the July 28, 2020 meeting. The feedback for that meeting can be seen there. Staff's interpretation of code remains the same as the last meeting. And due to the off-premises nature of the advertising being proposed for the video board, it would meet the definition of a billboard. Code section 3359 further states that billboards are a prohibited use in the downtown district. Therefore, the applicant is seeking a variance to this code section to allow the use.
Hi, baby. Can I have some pets?
Louis, could you turn your volume down? I don't know if this is coming through to other people this way, but you're very loud here.
Am I?
Yeah,
You are loud.
back from the mic just a second.
Is it better if I talk quieter like that?
That's better. Yeah,
Okay.
turn it down a scan.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure how to change that, so I'll try and work on it while you guys are discussing. But the guidelines also stress the importance of context and compatibility of proposals with their immediate surroundings. While electronic displays of this nature may be appropriate when part of a larger regional facility, they are deemed inappropriate when their intent is off-premises advertising. The proposed video screen will be anchored to the CSX Railroad Bridge over Neal Avenue, and its primary intent will be off-premises advertising. There's two code sections that I referenced at the last meeting that talk about these uses being prohibited. And in summary, I'll just say that the proposal was continued at the July meeting in order to get input from traffic. The applicant and the Division of Traffic Management have provided reports for this meeting. However, staff's review of this proposal is not based on safety, but on the guidelines, in particular that the sign is out of context. Therefore, although the proposal lies within the arena district, it does not meet the guidelines with regards to electronic displays and video screens, context, or the graphic specific guidelines. So let me share here, there are some site visit images of this location. So I think the first image is a view looking south. And then we also have the previous view right here. This is looking north and this is looking south.
Louis, I'm not seeing your pictures.
Are you not? Oh.
No, they're not showing up.
I think I can pull them up here. There we go. You see them now?
No.
No.
There we go.
I see one, yes.
So there we go. There's another image as well. So with that, I mean, I'll turn it over to the applicant. Like I said, we also have Laura Baker Morse and Wendy Boots from the city attorney's office to provide any input regarding any legal questions. And then Daniel Moorhead and Daniel Blechschmidt is here with the Division of Traffic Management to answer any traffic questions.
Good.
Okay. Anything else, Louis, from staff?
That's all.
Okay, are the applicants, whoever wants to speak for the applicants, would you identify yourself, please?
David Hodge.
David, anybody else with your group?
I do have with me Drew Laurent and Gina Balsamo, who are traffic engineers with Carpenter Marty Transportation.
Okay, would all three of you raise your right hands so we can swear you in? You swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If so, say aye.
I do.
And can your other folks so affirm? Are they there with you, David?
I saw them on here earlier.
We'll swear them in later if they come on, so if they want to talk. Does that work, or are they here? Have they raised their right hands on this? Okay.
Drew, I see Drew Laurent here. I don't know if.
Yes, sorry, I had trouble unmuting myself. I do.
Drew, had you sworn and affirmed? Oh, yes, good. Okay, you guys on board? Do you swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth, nothing but the truth? So say you do.
I do.
I do.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Applicant, by the way, we've seen this, so I don't know what the pleasure of the commission is, but let's just take it from here. Applicant, you have the floor.
Okay, and I'll try to be relatively short. Good morning, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to be back here today. I thought last month we had a decent discussion about the merits of incorporating some signage on this railroad bridge in our downtown arena district. And I think that the downtown commission was correct in the notion of taking a step back and allowing the opportunity to consult with traffic management and also affording us the opportunity to consult with our traffic engineers who, as you know, just took the oath. So we'll get into some discussion about that here in just a second. And of course, as with many things, the city has a position and our traffic engineers have another. And we'll have to weigh that information and send it on to council, hopefully, for them to ultimately make a decision. As Mr. Taba said, this is a use variance request asking the Downtown Commission to make a recommendation to our city council. And I respectfully request that you send it on to council with a positive recommendation. Let's let our elected officials make a decision here because the information is It varies. And here's why I say that. Your guidelines for the Downtown Commission provide that creativity and innovation should be hallmarks of new buildings, additions, and other improvements in the downtown, in the downtown. Now, I think that this is creative. I think this is innovative. I think that this railroad bridge is, by and large, the gateway to our downtown entertainment district with the Clipper Stadium, the new Crew Stadium coming on, the LC, and of course the arena. I believe this sign will promote all of those things. I think it'll promote our various downtown events in general, whether that's the Pride Parade, whether that's marathons, Pelotonia. I think it'll raise money for those various events. And we're asking you this morning simply for the opportunity. Let's go to City Council and have them weigh the merits of this. Our guidelines also provide that, and these are general, while including fairly specific standards in a number of areas, the guidelines are intended to allow for flexibility in their application. This is particularly important in light of the unique nature, development proposals and sites, as well as downtown generally. The guidelines also provide that downtowns, and this is also in the downtown district code section, downtown's environment and character will promote visual energy and excitement. Now, specific, those are general, specific recommendations for this type of signage include the installation of outdoor electronic displays and video screens is generally discouraged in downtown, what it says. But it also says consideration of such displays should be limited to the core area of the downtown, specifically the High Street corridor and the Arena District. It also says such displays should be situated so as not to obscure significant architectural building elements, including windows. Here, we're putting it on a railroad bridge, so we're not doing that. They also provide that such displays should not be approved for a time period not to exceed 5 years. So at the end of the day, what we're asking you to do, what I'm asking you to do, is to allow us to go have a discussion with our elected officials, with Columbus City Council, to ultimately decide as to whether or not this should happen. We'll then come back through the process, get into the specifics of the mounting, the lighting, et cetera. But the information I just read right out of the code and right out of the guidelines splits this baby right down the middle. There is information in these guidelines that would justify your support of this proposal, and let's let City Council decide. I'm here for questions. I think I'll kick it over, if I might, to Drew Laurent and Gina Balsamo, so that they can, our traffic engineers, so that they can hit some of the high points of the traffic analysis that they did, and whether or not they've concluded that this could be safe for motorists on Neal Avenue.
Morning, everybody. Again, this is Drew Laurent and Gina Balsamo with Carpenter Martin Transportation. We were retained to take a look at this proposed signage and evaluate driver safety and other transportation aspects of the proposed signage. We started with a research review, and there's really not a lot of data out there for these types of situations. There is a lot of research regarding digital signage versus standard billboards. And most of those experiments, I guess you could say, did show that drivers glance longer at digital signage versus standard, I guess you'd say, signage. But the consensus among everything was that it was not to the extent that it affected driver safety. So that's kind of where we were as far as on the research side of things. Some other anecdotal observations that we found, this stretch of Neal Avenue between the two signals there's no access points except for one right in, right out, which leads to the garage area of the arena. So, drivers are going to be expected to only focus right in front of them, as well as, viewing the sign if they wish to. And the location of the sign will be within a driver's field of view. It's at a height where it's no different than the standard, traffic light or the overhead signs that you see on 270, with the fancy, sentences that ODOT throws up there. So let's see. And additionally, there's some other examples in the downtown area that David alluded to, specifically at High Street and State Street, High and Broad, as well as High and Spring, that have digital signage and video boards over on the corners of the intersection, which draw drivers' attention away from the roadway versus looking right in front of them. So, in our general opinion, we think this is something that should be supported. We don't anticipate any safety issues with the signage.
Okay, any questions from, anything else from the applicant then?
I'm just one last thing, and this is to a little bit tongue in cheek, but it's to, I think, illustrate what some of what we discussed last month, and also what Drew and Gina just said. And we know that there are this type signage downtown at Spring and High, at Broad and High, at State and High. And as you're driving in a car, to look at those signs, you go like this. Or you go like this. You're looking outside of the field of view. The sign that we're talking about here, you're driving straight ahead and all you do is look up. So I think that common sense would tell you and instinct would tell you that the signage that we propose here is more safe than those signs that already exist in our downtown. Except ours is going to be better because it's going to promote our entertainment venue.
Okay, good. Anything from the commission? Any comments?
Yeah,
questions?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to clarify something that David said. This proposal goes to council whether we endorse it or not.
That's correct.
Right? You were saying let the elected officials decide. I mean, whether we recommend this or don't recommend it doesn't have any bearing on whether or not council gets to vote on it. That's correct, is it not?
Yeah, yes, sir. That is correct. Okay. That is correct. It makes it a heck of a lot easier for them to say yes if it comes with a majority of you saying that it's something they ought to consider.
Understood. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Can we hear from the city's traffic department?
Louis, is there someone here from traffic? Or Christopher?
Yeah. Hello. Mike Schmidt with Division of Traffic Management, and also Daniel Moorhead on my staff is here too. So we had looked at the report that Drew Laurent and team at and Gina Balsamo had put together at Carpenter Marty, and so overall, I mean, we do have some significant concerns with just the placement of this, and really kind of the precedence of placing this as kind of a test case, having such a large video board in the middle of a public roadway. I think there are some significant concerns that our division and department have, and I'll let Daniel maybe elaborate a little further on some of those points that we had concerns about.
Okay. So this is Daniel Moorhead, Division of Traffic Management. What you're seeing from Lewis is what we provided in response to the request for our input. Basically, we have 4 areas of concern with the proposed billboard. One is if you're a northbound vehicle on Neal about at Nationwide Boulevard, there are overhead lane control signs that today are in your field of vision that would be in front of where the proposed signage would be. So there is potential of increasing risk of somebody missing those signs and that leading to undesirable driving behavior if that signage were there. Secondly, the study that was included in the research memo, it does not include any examples of signage that is in the United States and that overhangs a roadway. So we don't necessarily have anything that definitively says what impact the sign that overhangs the roadway has compared to on the side of the roadway. What was included is there's a study in the United Kingdom with a simulator that did have signs overhead, and that study showed that there was increased glancing with those signs as compared to signs that were on the side of the road. Third, the city has announced our Vision Zero Columbus program, where we have a goal to eliminate all roadway-related deaths and severe injuries while increasing safe, healthy, and equitable mobility for all roadway users. And one component of this is reducing distracted driving. With the proposed signage, it does appear likely that driver attention would be attracted in a way that would be likely to increase distraction, which does not seem to align with our goals with Vision Zero Columbus. And then finally, if the proposed signage were to include event traffic and parking information, then it appears that the signage would be considered a traffic control device under Ohio Revised Code, and then it would be required to comply with the regulations of the Ohio Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. And the relevant regulation for this would be a changeable message sign, which includes a requirement that advertising would not be permitted.
Okay. Any questions for the traffic folks? Any comments? Any more questions or comments from the commissioners? I mean, I think we're hearing a lot about traffic today. Traffic obviously is not the only issue. That's one issue. I think one thing that I think it's interesting that people didn't point out here is this is a way. Now, obviously, there's not much traffic downtown in this particular moment, but Neal Avenue backs way up coming in. It backs all the way from the 670 freeway down past Nationwide Boulevard. So you've got a lot of this kind of stop and go in 3 or 4 lanes there, by the way, northbound, and pretty much the same way southbound. So that's an element, and that means you've got to have people that are going to go inching along. But I think aside from traffic, you've got this whole idea of putting a kind of a freestanding, and I don't want to call it a billboard. There seems to be a discussion about that. I don't have a problem. It functions basically the same as a billboard as far as I'm concerned. But you know, kind of, it's not on a building. We're just finding an independent space, which of course is what they used to do back with billboards in the old days. They'd put up a couple of posts and hang it over a parking lot or something like that. And that's what we've gotten rid of. So at any rate, there are a number of issues here. What I would like to do is get a motion on the floor, and then we can vote on it. What the proper procedure apparently do is to put a motion on the floor to approve the recommendation, and then if the commission does not want to approve it, that can be turned down. And I don't know if that applies to this in terms of the parliamentary concerns or not, but one way or the other, I would like to get a motion on the floor in a second. Then we'll ask for further discussion and see if is there anybody, by the way, before we even make a motion, from outside the commission or the applicants who would like to comment on this?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Otto, go ahead.
is there anybody that's there from the city attorney's office?
Yes, there is.
I understand that the emphasis here is not supposed to be on safety particularly, but the point that you brought up, I think is valid, and it's a point that I've been concerned about with this overhead, and that is the degree of traffic and people approaching this, trying to read it, and somebody rear ends someone that's stopped. Let me ask the city attorney's office, is there any chance or risk rather that someone could try and bring the city in as a defendant, claiming that we allowed some kind of a tracked nuisance there, which caused a rear end collision, or is that a little far fetched? And that's probably going to come up at council.
This is Laura Baker Morris with the City Attorney's Office. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. I cannot tell you definitively whether or not the city would prevail in defending on such a lawsuit, but I can say that it's not crazy to think that someone might try to sue the city for that particular in that particular instance. There have been all manner of times where the city has been included in a lawsuit claiming that improvements made to roadways or things that are in the right of way were the responsibility of and caused the accident. It's not to say that the city wouldn't be able to successfully defend on an immunity claim, but as to whether or not we might be engaged, that's certainly possible.
Let me just, if I may, Mr. Beatty, that's absolutely a fair question. And I would say that in terms of that concern, that the city is already in that position with the signage that exists by the city's approval at Spring and High, State and High, and Broughton High, among other places.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I had a comment. In listening to everything, there are two things about this that trouble me. The first is that while maybe the southbound traffic, it's straightforward and there isn't as many concerns about, traffic signals or lane changing, it's the northbound traffic that I think could be very troublesome in terms of a safety issue. And then secondly, I understand that this is really supposed to be something as an enhancement and a gateway for the downtown, but the majority of what will be displayed will be advertisements, and only a small amount would be something that's community oriented. So for those two reasons, I have difficulty with the proposal.
Okay. Can I push the commissioners for someone to make an motion, please? Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that the Downtown Commission recommend approval of this submission for a variance to Columbus City Council.
Okay. Is there a second to that, please?
I'll second it.
So we get it on the floor. That's Mike Lusk.
That's my list.
It is on the floor. I'm going to ask everyone if they have any more questions, any more comments from the commissioners. Okay, from the applicants, anything else from the applicant? Now, the motion is not to approve this as a device on the bridge. This motion is to make a recommendation to City Council.
Correct.
Anything else? Anything from the applicants? Okay.
This has been a decade in the making for me, a labor of love. I respectfully request you passing the motion by a majority so that I can go take this up with Columbus City Council. We've heard a difference of opinion among about the appropriateness of this, and certainly there are differences in your guidelines. Some portion of the guidelines say yes, other portions of the guidelines say no. The traffic engineers, there are issues that the city's folks raised there. Our private traffic engineer said it's not safe, and I think said it is safe, and instinctively, I think it is, because this is less safe than this. It's different, it's innovative, it's creative, it's our downtown entertainment venue. It's not appropriate every place, on every railroad bridge all over town, but at the gateway to our arena district, I argue that it is, and hopefully a majority of you can agree, and we can go discuss this with council.
Okay, any other comments from anyone? Hearing none, all those in favor of this say aye. All those opposed say aye.
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 Do we need to do a roll call? It sounds to me like it's unanimous. Is that correct, Louis? Louis, you're muted.
I apologize. It sounded unanimous. Do you want me to do one?
No, I don't think, unless you want to.
It sounded unanimous to me, sir.
You know what? This is Wendy. I think you should do a roll call.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Louis.
Steve, thank you, Wendy. Steve Whitman,
No.
Otto Beatty,
No.
Mike Lusk,
No.
Bob Liversidge,
No.
Jana Maniaci,
No.
Ted Hardesty,
No.
Tony Slanik,
No.
Danny Palmore.
No.
The motion fails. Does not pass. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Okay, let's move on to the next case then, please, Louis.
Yes.
21 East State Street.
Yep. Give me a moment here. Okay, so the next one is 21 East State Street. They are here for graphics. The applicant is returning with address graphics for the East State Street entry. All lettering has been removed and only the 21 remains. They appeared before the July 28th, 2020 meeting, and the feedback can be seen below. In summary, the applicant has revised the proposal to try and address the commissioner's feedback. That's all.
Who is here to represent the applicant, please?
Hi, this is Beverly Eichenlaub from MBBJ.
Are you by yourself today, Beverly?
I am not. I also have Norm I and Jonathan Hogue from MBBJ.
Please raise your right hand. Swear you in. You swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So say, I do.
I do.
I do.
Thank you very much. Applicants, let's go ahead. And by the way, we've seen this. You've been kind enough to bring it back several times. Catch us up on where we are today. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think, Louis, if you can just share the screen and we can talk through very briefly. I think it should be fairly brief. The subject of the entry sign, the building entry sign on State Street, and changing the address from what we had written out to basically the numeral 21. And we have some images here. There's a view, so you can see the 21 there on the right, and everything else is as per our previous submittal. So that's really the only thing that's different. So that's the only thing at this point that we're seeking approval for.
Okay, so literally those are the only changes then, is that correct?
The 21, exactly, that is the only change.
Perfect. Any questions from the commissioners? As far as I'm concerned, it looks frankly very elegant. I like it.
I very much appreciate the applicant listening to our concerns, and I move approval.
Okay, is there a second, please?
Yes.
Okay, any questions, comments from anybody, from the audience, the applicant? Beverly, I hate to let you go this quickly here.
Oh, please. Go so quickly.
Right. Doesn't seem quickly at all, does it? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And I hope you guys feel good about it too.
Oh, we do.
Or at least not
much.
At least not too bad. Thanks for coming back. Okay. Case, please.
All right. The next case is 530 East Rich Street. It's for new construction, demolition, landscaping, and lighting. The applicant is proposing partial demolition and renovation of two existing historic houses and construction of a 4-story with loft 30-unit multifamily development in the East Town Street Historic District. They're also going to be seeking a variance after this vote. So first we'll vote on the COA, then we can vote on the variance to reduce their parking spaces. The applicant has modified the proposal to show greater details regarding the partial demolition and rehabilitation of the existing structures. Vertical elements have also been added to the side elevations based off of staff's feedback and commission feedback. The proposal generally meets the guidelines with regards to building design and demolition. And if you recall, we reviewed this conceptually at the July meeting. That's all.
Okay. Here for the applicant, please.
Mr. Chairman, Mike Shannon on behalf of the applicant. As Louis has indicated, since last we met, we've made some suggested changes for clarification on the
Mike,
partial.
Can you hang on for just a second, please? Are you speaking alone for the applicant today?
To the extent necessary, I also have Jamie Overslake from Shift Capital as well as Randy Black. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Okay. No, that's all right. All I want to do is swear you in for process purposes. Would all three of you then raise your right hands? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do.
I do.
I do.
And that was three of you guys then.
Well, there's
Okay, thanks. Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry to
Mr. Oh, no, you're fine, sir. Since last we met, we did refine the drawings to clarify the partial demolition on the historic structures we are preserving. Also, since that time, we did receive a favorable recommendation from the Historic Resource Commission as it relates to the two historic properties. We also received conditional approval on the new build, subject to staff review of a couple design elements, namely some split place block, and also a final determination on which window we will be using in the subject property. So for those reasons, we respectfully request your approval of our C of A, and we can address the de minimis parking variance on a subsequent vote. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions, comments about the application? Commissioners?
What were the design changes again?
I should probably bring in, I believe it's Joe Sullivan, Mr. Chairman, who was actually sworn in on that behalf, to be more specific. But Mr. Levers, as you pointed out, that the delineation previously submitted was insufficient. So we did improve that delineation to the satisfaction of staff and the Historic Resource Commission in their hearing last week. So if you want a more specific answer, I can get Randy or Mr. Sullivan on.
Joe, did you change the base? So we had some questions, I think, about the block on and the color base.
This is Joe Sullivan. The split face block base was an element of concern at the Historic Resources Commission. So we're going to be looking at a different material for that. One of the things that we're considering is Schuldeis block, which is a flat surface with chamfered edges that looks more like limestone, so that it has a little more refinement to that. So that we're going to be meeting the HRC staff to go through an approved product for the base. The other change, well, there were two other changes. One was we ended up proposing a flat canopy at the entrance, which was approved by the HRC, and we added a break on the side elevations, which was a request of the Downtown Commission to, in essence, create what appear to be kind of pilaster supports where the windows occur, and then some infill between that, which I think that was a very appropriate critique of that side elevation where everything was horizontal and needed to have some vertical element to break it up. So those are the two design changes.
Thank you. Also appreciate the clarification on what's being demolished. That was very helpful.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I have a question.
Jana, go ahead.
Okay, great. Last time we talked about the entryway from the street, and then also the alleyway that's created between the new construction and the two existing buildings. And I see you've done a lot of detail, very lovely detail between the two existing buildings, but I'm wondering if you could give me some clarification about how that alleyway between the existing building and the new construction functions, if there is vehicular access or not, and how that entryway into the building will work in terms of, I know that there is an area to park for the existing building, and I just want to have a little bit better understanding of that. And that's one question. And the other question is the height of the building, new building. I understand it has to be a certain height, and I appreciate that you probably have very nice, floor to floor dimensions, but I'm wondering if there's any way it could be slightly lowered, or maybe even at the top of the building, the coloration may be a little bit lighter so that or try different things so that the effect isn't as massive on the top and maybe doesn't seem to contrast so much with the buildings that are in front of it. Maybe make it look like it recedes a little bit more or not as massive. So those are my two questions and comments.
The entry, there will be some parallel parking along the eastern edge of that drive, but the main entry is visible from Rich Street, and so that and the circulation between the buildings and what will somewhat serve as like a little motor court. There won't be traffic that actually moves in the east-west portion between the existing houses and the new building. The trash canisters will be rolled out to be picked up from that concrete drive that is on the eastern portion of the east building. So that is really a pedestrian area between the two buildings that goes back and then north of the two existing houses. Let's see, the other question relative to the coloration, actually, when we initially proposed this, we had a lighter color for that top floor, and the trim, the request from HRC was to make that darker so that it receded more. I actually shared your observation that if it was lighter, it would tend to diminish and recede than the darker color. I think here we're into differing opinions by different people looking at that. Only I think that could go lighter and it would tend to diminish. So I'm not sure how to address that when we have comments from this board and comments from the HRC that differ.
Well, I would say that the HRC would know better than I what would, from their experience, what would recede. So if you've already experimented with different colors and they feel that, hey, it would recede more and enhance the original buildings more so with a darker color, then I would go with that. So I guess my comment would be, maybe as much as you can, as you continue to develop the project, keep in mind sensitivity to the buildings in front and how you can still make that new structure detailed and and elegant and unique, but also enhancing what's there in front and not competing with it. And whatever way, you feel that can best be achieved. Because I do feel it is a little high and it tends to dominate it somewhat. So anything that could be done to help mitigate that, I think would be good.
I think this particular view that we're looking at is an aerial view. There's another view in this that is more of a street level perspective that I think from the pedestrian experience, you really won't see much of this building behind. That elevated view is to better explain the design of the new building. So I thought that other perspective was in this package, but maybe I know it was in the HRC package, but I'm not seeing it here. I think there were two perspectives at the end of the presentation. If Louis could somehow bring that up, I think it explains better the pedestrian experience.
I saw them in the previous package. I'm not seeing them in this package.
You're only seeing the one?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not seeing it. Unless you can give me a page number to go to.
I don't have
It's
that.
the page, but Louis, it's the page before the aerial view. It shows up in your online packet. So it's one page before the view you were on.
Yeah, I think it may have been page 1 in our online packet.
Yeah.
Oh, is it the first page on that you sent us?
Oh, you're talking about this view here?
Yes, that view.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like the front elevation. Okay.
So Joe, I hate to disagree with you, but I think the darker colors allow the two houses to stand out as a gem out in front, and I think they'll help it recede into the background like this rendering shows.
I agree. I kind of like the dark.
That's good then. I mean, that's good. If it does and it's the best choice, that's what I'd be interested in. So if that's how people feel and that really helps it, that's very good.
We did have a letter from a local resident that was suggesting that the scale, this was out of scale with the historic district, but I think that the historic district Historic Resources Commission has, I assume, reviewed that and had that discussion. And I think that the architecture that we're seeing here helps to keep the scale at a fairly reasonable level and still allow development on this site.
Okay. Any other comment?
I think that the new element is quite different. However, because of the way it's presented and the two in front, it minimizes it minimizes the difference in the two. I think this looks really, really good.
I do think one thing they're doing too is they are preserved, for what it's worth, they're keeping the two buildings. Site buildings, so as opposed to scraping them and starting over from scratch. So that's, I think, a positive thing, at least for the streetscape. So I do note that I don't see any specification for the planting for the landscape plan. I think
Mr. Chairman, I was going to comment on that too, and I think it's relatively minor because there is a landscape plan deep in the package that is at a design development level, which I think looks perfectly appropriate. And I just think it needs one more step of the final plant selected.
I would agree. How do we want to do that? Do you want to bring the whole package back next month, or do you want us to consider approving it and then you bring back landscaping for us?
I think we would much prefer to have the whole thing considered, with the exception of the landscaping, and we'll bring the landscape plan specifications back.
Okay. I thought you might say that.
Mr. Chairman, that's Mike Shannon. In similar situations, when you're approving the vast majority of the project and you just have the landscape plan to approve, sometimes you've left that for a staff approval. Would that be appropriate under these circumstances?
What is the commission?
No, I'd like to have our landscape architect look at it.
Okay. Okay.
And I don't
Understood.
I'm happy to do that.
Understood.
I mean, I agree with Ted. I didn't see anything on there out of line. I think it's a kind of a perfunctory thing.
Yes.
I'm not sure that the commission needs to see it again because I think we all like the layout. But we need to be, it's just something we need to do. And by the way, you've got materials in here. That's good. So the package, I think, is pretty much complete, but we do need to get specifics on landscaping. I personally would be fine with having the specifics on the landscaping sent to Lewis, and then Lewis can send them by Ted for an okay on that. Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
Works for us.
Yes. That's fine with me, and I'll, Tony or I can chime in on that. I'm perfectly comfortable with that.
Good.
Sounds good.
Well, then send it to Ted and Tony. And we're relying on you, so it better be good, guys. Okay, is there a motion from the commission, please? Is there a motion, please? Can someone?
I'll move for approval.
I'm sorry, who said that?
That's Mike Glass. I'll move for approval with the landscape being reviewed by staff and Tony and
Ted.
Ed.
Is there a second, please?
And I'll second that.
Great. Okay. Any more questions, comments? Anything from the audience?
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries, Lewis. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Next case, please.
We need to do the
Okay.
variance next.
Yes, so the variance, the next case is going to be the variance. So we've just approved their proposal, and they're looking for a variance to reduce the size of their proposed parking spaces from 9 by 18 feet to 8.5 by 17 feet. And the proposal generally meets the guidelines with regards to parking, as the reduced parking dimensions allow the structured parking to conform to the building's footprint.
Let me ask a question. Oh, I'm sorry. Applicant, go ahead, and then I've got a question for you. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing to offer other than, by all standards, this is a de minimis variance, and I've done it very frequently in the downtown area. Thank you.
Okay, and that's kind of my question to the architects on our group. I occasionally, and I'm sure it depends upon what kind of car and what car you drive, but some of these spaces get kind of.
Hi.
What's the? We got a couple architects in the group. What's your thought on this thing? Is that done consistently, or?
Why are we regulating parking in the downtown? Is the only thing we don't have to regulate the number of spaces, or?
Yeah, there's no parking requirement downtown on the number of parking spaces, but they're still supposed to meet the code requirements for parking. And if they want to deviate from that, then we have to approve that variance from that code section. So they're reducing the size.
And do we have handicap parking in the design?
Yes, sir.
What's the width?
Everybody's driving smaller cars now, right? So if I rent one of these apartments and I'm driving to Fleetwood, that's my problem.
Hey, Lewis, what's the width of the drive aisle?
That's a good question. I don't know. Does the applicant know?
I know it meets the code requirement. I would speculate it's between 20 and 22 feet, but I know it meets the code requirement.
And so you're not asking variance for that either?
No, sir. No.
Okay.
We haven't in previous requests, but not in this one, sir.
What's the
I don't have an issue with the dimensions of the parking spots. It's my class.
Okay.
You have the authority to do this, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I move approval of the variance as requested.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? The variance carries.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, next case, please.
Okay. Pull that up here. So the next case is going to be 366 East Broad. It's a new construction. The applicant is proposing renovation. Oh, by the way, is my volume okay now? I adjusted it.
Yes.
Okay. The applicant is proposing renovation of a contributing building along East Broad Street and construction of an 8-story residential building along North Grant Avenue. The project will result in 114 total units, 3,000 square feet of office, 1,900 square feet of ground floor retail, and 96 parking spaces. Art panels will be installed along Grant Avenue at the alley to the north. It appeared before the commission at the December 18th, 2019 conceptually, and there's the feedback from the commission. The guidelines state that the exterior design of a parking structure should minimize the monotony of its underlying structure system through wall mass and window openings, and through variation in color, material, and/or texture. Where parking structures and pedestrian areas adjoin, the exterior edge of the parking structure should exhibit a high level of architectural detail. So in summary, the proposal generally meets the guidelines with regards to design principles. However, staff has concerns regarding the way the garage interacts with the sidewalk along North Grant Avenue. The applicant has been working with us to try and improve the Grant Avenue facade through the incorporation of art. Let me pull up the location here so we're all on the same page. And I did take some site visit pictures.
Mr. Chairman, while Lewis is doing that, this is Ted Hardesty. I'll need to recuse myself from this case.
Okay, let me note that real quick. All right, so here's the location.
I don't see the,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to save it again, share it again. Here you go. There you go. Do you see that? So there's the location.
yes.
So essentially, here's the existing structure, and they're going to be constructing in this parking lot back here off of North Grant Avenue. There is I don't know if it's an official alley or a paper, but there is some sort of an alley back here separating these two lots. And then let me pull up the images I took as well. Okay. So I took some images of the site. As you can see, this is the parking lot. There are some mature trees here along Grant Avenue. This is here's that alley I was speaking of. There seems to be like an unimproved alley through there. I don't know if it's official or not. Here's a view of the parking lot looking south. This is the building on the south side with the columns that's going to be renovated. Here's a view again. As you can see, there is kind of a large, I don't know, kind of like a trench between the building and the parking lot where there are windows, and there are some trees in the area. And then this area right here with the columns, I believe this is a later addition. These columns are going to be removed as part of the proposal as well. And then here on the front of the existing building, they're going to be doing any major changes to the exterior, but they are going to be adding the storefront all the way on the right. They are going to be adding an entryway there as well. And that's it for my portion.
Okay. Applicant, who's here for the applicant, please? Could you identify yourselves?
I am Brad Parish with Arch All, as well as Paul Latta from Edge. He's here joined us today.
Okay. Would you, are those the only two folks with you today then, Brad? Just you and he?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Would you both raise your right hands Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do.
I do.
Thank you very much. Okay, applicant, go ahead.
Good morning. Pleased to present this project. I know we spoke back in December here. This, its official name is going to be the Veer on Broad, is a mixed-use workforce housing project. As Lewis said, it's proposed as 114 units. There'll be 100 units in the addition, and we're going to renovate the second and third floor of the existing building into loft style units. There'll be about 14 in that building. The parking structure is a 3-story parking structure with 128 spaces. There will be office component in the lower basement floor of this building. First floor will be an amenity and a retail on the hard corner, and then the subsequent units above, as I spoke. From a design standpoint, obviously, the site is 120, wide, so that fits perfect for a parking garage, but didn't really offer the ability to give sort of a strip of retail along the grant. So we wanted to dress up that the sort of connection between the parking garage. So what we're, with the massing this sort of linear box along Grant here, we're bringing down that sort of striations. And I don't know if you have the flat elevation of this. You could page, I think it's later in the package, please. Page 27. You'll see that we've brought those down with a CMU sort of that's fluted in between where we would have these recessed panels for an art installation or a mural that is a consistent mural along that facade. We also are doing screening in those openings above on that area. On the upper half of it, we are offering, we have these sort of light wells, window bays that we're showing that's sort of a beam of light around the window, and that's in the color area. The colors shown on the elevations are to be determined until final branding. So if we have to come back for the exact color, we'll do that. But just note as a placeholder, as those areas, to have a special feature along the facade. On the existing building, if you could go to page, pardon me, yeah, page 12. We found the original drawings for this building, and the original drawings had these, and if you want to zoom in on it, had sort of these retail spaces that were pushed in from the facade of the building. And actually, we've demoed the first floor to unearth the building here, and we found the original pads underneath. So our idea is to recreate that on this north or on the east side here. And this is really a component of egress that we need for the upper floors. So that's going to, and sort of offer into the amenity space on that to create some interaction there along Broad. The wells that Lewis talked about, and if you want to go to page, the landscape page, wait, it's really good, the color. Sorry, I'm flipping. So there's two existing sort of light wells to this project, one being on the east side and one being on the west side of the existing building. I would say try page 19. Yeah, there you go. So the east courtyard, we're actually filling that in so that we have an on-grade terrace or a terrace space with the amenity space that's just adjacent on the first floor. Okay, but then
Now, do you mean the north side of the building? You don't mean the east side of the building, do you?
well, it's the north side of the building, but it's the east side. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry,
There's an
yes.
overall landscape plan that might be better to illustrate where these courtyards are. It's towards the front of the package.
Yeah, go to page 5, please. That's a lot better. Thank you, Paul.
That?
Yep, that works.
Yes.
So yes, you're right. It's the north side of the building, but there's an east courtyard and a west courtyard. So the east courtyard we're filling in is going to be on grade with the amenity space on the first floor. The west courtyard is still going to remain sunken to deal with the, to have the office component on that corner, have sort of outdoor light. You can see there's the transition between the two buildings here. And that's for our main goal is that hopefully everybody goes through the main door off of Broad. But if guests want to come in through this sort of side door where is the connector between the two buildings, they're able to. Okay, there on the parking garage, there is a roof deck amenity space for the tenants as well. Okay. So with that, I think I'll just open up for questions. Paul, if there was anything you wanted to add, feel free to.
No, other than that, we do have plants selected, and those show later in the package as far as a plant list, that sort of.
I have a question and comment about the parking circulation. And I'm wondering if you had, I know you have one entry, and I think it's an entry and exit off of the alley to the north. And I'm wondering if you had thought about being able to do both of your entry and exit points from that alley, if that's possible, and then open up the idea that Grant doesn't have any entry, and that's just like a very nice continuous facade without that parking.
Yeah, so we did study that a little bit, and there's two reasons ultimately why what we're showing today. One was we wanted to, the exit off of Grant really starts to give the parking there for guests and or the office component that is going to be in this building, spots for the retail space that's going to be on the corner. So it was more about that. The exit off the alleyway is more for the tenants of the building so that they would have a defined area. We also, being the site was very challenging and tight, we also had to find a corner for the trash service as well as water service and the electrical. So that's all in the northwest corner, which needs to be adjacent to the right of way. So
can we see the plan? The plan of that level?
Yeah, you can go to the civil drawing shows it really well with the alley, the 20-foot alley. It's on page 12 of this document. So here you can see. So there's the 32 spaces on that lower level that's off of Grant. Okay, and then the ramp up actually is off of the alley to the upper floors.
What page are you looking at now?
Page 12. It's the civil drawing.
Communicate. You don't circulate from the first level up.
No, yeah. So it totally isolates, public sort of parking for the amenity versus the tenants.
What's the detention? Underground detention.
Underground detention. It's underneath the ramp as it goes up. We have a vault there.
I thought it was a jail cell.
And the electrical transformers on the corner, trash is right there. And we have the water room, which needs access off of Grant because that's where the service is coming into.
What is the picture that shows the elevations that are on this new building? Are there basically what I'm looking at is 2 floors of just plain old concrete block, right, along the parking garage there along Grand Avenue?
No, go to the material page. It's on page 36 of the PDF document.
Okay.
So it's CMU2, which is an 8 fluted split block there. So it has sort of the striations, and that's meant to sort of give a different scale to the metal that's above, which is the metal 01.
Where is the CMU01 then on the building?
The CMU01 is on the north, and it's the firewall on the east side as well.
Along the alley and then along the east side.
Yeah. It's to influence. So if you go to page 28 or 27 of the PDF.
Okay.
So we have on the northwest corner, we have the smooth face. We can do again a nice mural from that side, and then it's sort of infill block as you go back the alley, and as well as the firewall that separates our building from the adjacent. Okay.
Where I'm not understanding exactly where the mural would be. Where would the mural be on this west side? I don't see that.
It's on the north elevation. Yeah, go.
Oh, it's very thin. It's a very thin vertical panel there.
Yeah, there's multiple of it. It's sort of one graphic that goes along the crash wall in a sense.
Is it along street level or is it?
Yeah, it's on street level.
Yeah, it kind of angles up.
Lewis, can you show us where that is? Oh, it's
Yeah,
in
do you see?
between the columns there?
Yeah, do you see my screen? There's a tall one on the left, and then it goes from like kind of short. It keeps getting taller until it gets to the vehicle entry. We asked for something along this facade just to try and improve the pedestrian experience, and this is what we got out of it. So
what's the idea on that? It would be recessed then?
Yeah, it's in a different plane than it. Pardon me. It's in a different plane than the CMU. So it's sort of recessed. So it's meant to reveal as a pedestrian walks by.
What material is underneath that then?
That's concrete, poured concrete.
Poured concrete.
Yeah, it's part of the parking garage structure.
So in other words, it's not along there. It's not open to the. Don't you have to have it open for ventilation purposes?
We meet the ventilation requirements based on the north and the upper floor. So we're okay with ventilation.
Okay, that'll be solid all the way along Grand Avenue then. And it looks like it's on an incline.
Yeah.
And the idea is you put art in there.
Yep. Yeah.
Those are a lot of panels to fill. Do you come back and is it supposed to be cohesive?
Our thought process is it's a continuous panel, of some sort. I would say we will come back with what the art mural will be. This is just a placeholder where we would designate that as.
Would the idea be that the art mural is permanent, or is it something that changes out over time?
We really haven't gotten into specifics of that. We just want to, it would be great if it changed over time.
And I also had a question. So I understand the reason why you probably, need to keep the vehicle entry exit on Grant. And is there any way that, it looks like you have some type of a horizontal structural element and then it's open above there as well. And I'm wondering if there's anything that could be maybe put on that open space above the horizontal element that would maybe minimize, that opening and give it more of a decorative look that's keeping in line with what you're doing with the art murals.
Yeah, we could, like the other openings there, we could put the mesh on the upper part and still have our openness requirement. So it would be the SW01 materiality there.
Yeah, I think
that's a perforated metal panel.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm looking at that art mural thing on there, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Are you done with your question? Are you done with yours?
I'm done. Thank you. Yeah.
I'd like to go back and revisit this mural. You've got 12 different panels. That seems to me like that would feel really very busy. I mean, I understand how maybe pull it off, but
Isn't it the idea that it's one mural that covers that, that goes, that's in those segments?
Yes, that would be the idea. It's one continuous mural.
But it's all chopped up. I mean, is it going to read like one mural? I don't know. I'm asking a question, I guess, but it seems to me if you've got it chopped up into 12 pieces with these columns in there in between, I'm asking a question.
I think it's I would think it would read as one, but I'll defer to others on the board if they want to chime in.
I'm wondering you have these pilasters or columns that are coming down, that are bisecting the mural and making it into all the 12 little murals. And I understand you want to carry the vertical line down, but I'm wondering if you need that many vertical elements there, and maybe if you eliminate some, you have wider spaces, perhaps, and maybe it gives more of a feeling of a base, and then
I think they visually hold the building up. I think you start taking those out, it's going to look kind of odd.
You take a couple out, you think so?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we really want to ground that upper mass and give it a sturdy base. So I think really with the push and pull and the fact that it's one graphic, we're looking to have sort of a different experience, whether you're walking along and driving by it or walking even on the other side, of Grant. I mean, if you're walking on the other side of Grant, on the west side, you're going to be able to see the whole mural, where if you're walking adjacent to it, it sort of reveals itself over time. Likewise as the driving experience. So it's a different sort of feel depending on how you approach this building. And that's kind of the idea behind why it's in two different planes and hopefully one big mural.
I could make the two upright vertical pieces there where the balconies are. I could make those solid down to the ground there underneath the all the way to the sidewalk. But to me, it just looks kind of funny that you've got that kind of chopped up there. But that's an opinion. I'm gonna just throw it out. Nobody else feels that way. Okay.
I think you're saying something similar to what I'm saying. And I agree. I mean, I definitely think the building needs the columns and the to look rounded, but I do think there might be one, or maybe one or possibly two that could be. I see one in particular that I think could be eliminated, and it might help with that openness, perhaps. And is that what you're saying, Steve? I'm not quite sure if that's the same thing you were saying.
I'm just saying to me it looks, the facade along there looks chopped up. And I think what I would do, instead of having all those little indentations, I might bring down, masonry under the areas where you have the railings on the balconies there. I think that's what they are. I might almost make that solid down to the ground on those two, which I think would get away from, takes you a little bit away from having all these slices on the ground floor, which again, to me, just across is kind of busy.
That's interesting. So you're saying that where you have the white balconies underneath that, to whatever treatment they're doing, whether it's a mural or whatever they're doing artistically, to make that vertical up to the underside of the balcony?
No, I bring the masonry straight down from the balcony section.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Even if it were recessed, even if it's recessed a little bit, it would represent a break in your mural. And again, I don't know whether that's going to mess up the mural or not, but I think it's going to be interesting to see how somebody comes up with a mural to fit into 12 slots here that are all chopped up.
Right.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the group? We've seen it. Any questions? Let's talk just momentarily about landscaping, and then I think we've heard the whole proposal. Paul, do you want to? Is Paul there?
I'm here.
Did you have any comments? You made a comment earlier about have the specified.
Yes. I think it's an interesting. The streetscape follows the downtown standards. Grant is too narrow to have planters, so we're in Greats. Broad Street and Grant by the old building has building vaults that come out to the curb. So per the standards, we're putting in planters, above grade planters, pots, if you will. The West Courtyard is the most visible to the general public. It's something that you can look down into as you walk by. So its intent is to become a very pleasant space, kind of a lush in a way, with some higher end, perhaps pavers or stamped concrete as the pavement. The East Courtyard is totally hidden from the public. It's almost a surprise if you come in through the amenity space of the existing building. It's certainly viewable from those units that are above it in the new building and from the neighboring building as well. The idea there was that we would, a portion of the parking garage is visible from that East Courtyard, so we took steps to plant vines on the wall, that sort of thing, to try to reduce the impact of the garage. The upper courtyard is also, again, the roof terrace is something that is, again, not really visible for the general public because it's kind of tucked into the niche of the building. And there we just have similar types of planters that are, there you go, planters and trees that are above grade. The roof deck material itself is, Brad, you have to help me out on there and what that product is, but it's not a pedestal on pavers or anything like that. Yeah. And the idea there is that this provides a nice place for residents to come out. And really, from this vantage point, you can really see the art sculpture, the letters on Gay Street at CCAD. So that's kind of a cool view from there.
How do you get onto that deck?
There's a hallway right there on that floor. You can see just, there you go. And there's another entrance just to the south of there. There's a long corridor that exits out.
At the other end of the corridor.
Yeah.
And what's the relationship of this building to the building directly to the east?
So the parking garage goes up. It's about 1 story higher than the adjacent building, and then the 5 stories of residential actually steps back. It's 13 feet, and that also was a product of the snow load calculations and not having to go into the east building and reinforce that roof. So we work closely with our structural engineer on analyzing the existing building and sort of modifying our design to respond to that.
Are there windows in that side of the west side of that existing building?
Yeah, there are. So on the existing building, yes, there are, and by the documents for this property, actually, this property has rights over that property to block those in. So we have we built a 3-hour wall. It's 2 feet off of the existing building. Okay.
It's in that 2-foot slot.
Yeah.
What happens with that? I mean, is that a trash collector or is it a?
No, there's some services and stuff, and it was that one picture that we had. So it's the idea is that we're going to eventually cap it in between there so stuff doesn't fall down. So we're still pushing through those details.
And you've talked to CCAD about this? They know
Yes.
Their windows are going to be blocked?
Yep, we've blocked their buildings. We've talked to CCAD. We've done our due diligence with the neighboring property.
Yeah.
Paul, this is Danny. You were talking about pots along the streetscape. Do you have any idea right now what is the size, the materials, and the colors? And my question is based on the pots at front that are around the Lazarus building. So
yeah, the pots on
you're going in.
The pots are products from Turnacell. They are black. They're 5 feet by 5 feet, and I believe they are 30 inches tall, and that's large enough that we can put in an ornamental tree, a redbud tree, and then there's some plantings along the base of that tree, some sedums.
Okay.
I cannot read your, is it page 19 that has the plant list? Is that what that is, guys?
Yes.
Okay, page 19. Okay, I can't read that on my computer screen, but okay.
Go to the next, or it's page. Yeah, go to the one previous.
19.
Oh, yeah, there you go. There you go.
Zoom in if you can.
Get to zoom in on that.
Okay, gotcha. Good. Okay. I'm not going to ask Ted whether he has any comments on the landscape selection here. So,
I'd like to make a comment. This is Tony Slanik. Let's go back up to that courtyard on the rooftop. Paul, I've seen you do some amazing stuff, but this just sort of seemed underthought, especially as it relates to sort of the architecture with the vertical and horizontal bars, and then just to kind of see these lines that sort of frame the courtyard just seems like a missed opportunity to really enhance that area and make it special up there.
Yeah, the planters are placed away from the buildings to provide some sort of a sense of privacy from those units that face that, so that you don't have people, right there. There's the idea that there's outdoor seating and dining areas. Those planters are 30 inches tall, I believe. The two that are along the building, the one at the bottom of the image there is a lower one, 18. Again, just so when you walk out that way, you have the view of CCAD from there.
Is there any way to sort of incorporate seating along the planter boxes? It just seems sort of under designed for that area, as special as it is.
Yeah, I suppose we can definitely put in some more seating out there.
You said sedum or sedum? Sedum, like
like the thing you sit on.
Right.
Oh, seating. Okay.
Seating. Yes. We can definitely add some more seating out there.
Seating.
Okay, good. What's the pleasure of the group? Any more questions for the applicant? Any comments? Okay, what's everyone do?
Quickly, if I could just add, we did have one letter from the public opposing the construction. I sent it to you last night.
She said it was ugly.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, yeah.
Which it is.
Okay, well, if somebody feels that way, we probably need more comments.
I move approval.
And I second.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
This is Danny. I just want to add that when we were talking about I don't want to go all the way back, but in terms of the art panels and it's being broken up sort of in 12 different sections, Steve had shared his opinion. Mine is that I like it only because it, I think, is far more interesting and that it gives additional texture to the building. I just wanted to say I like the 12 panels. The 12 panels makes it art in itself.
Okay.
I would
I'd
want
like to add to that I think shown in black and white, the mural, I think if it had some color to it, it would really pop. It'd be interesting, but again, I know you haven't picked the artwork yet, but I think something with some dramatic color there would really make that more understandable.
I agree, and I think we should condition our approval on the artwork coming back. And no pressure, Brad, but that's going to make the building.
Have you thought of illuminating that as well? Like having it so that at night there's a watch on those panels? That might be very interesting and really highlight them.
That's a great idea.
That is a great idea. Yeah, we could look at the bottom, sort of washing it up. there. Again, playing with it.
Or even top down, whatever works.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
You haven't really talked about lighting, exterior lighting. I don't know if you're just not having any, or if
No,
you are, that would be another thing to bring back to us to take a look at. I think it would.
I did talk about it. It's page 35 of this document. So in those, in the render, in the one render, you can kind of see that the color panels, we're looking at using this fixture that offers a beam of light around the opening, like a shadow box on that elevation.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So that would be, that's the lighting that we're proposing for this on the facade.
Okay, well, she's talking about the panels for the artwork though, too, I think.
No, I mean, that could be along with the art installation. I would have no problem bringing that back.
Right.
Great.
I missed that. Sorry, Brett.
No, it's okay, Mike.
And Bob, did I hear you say that this should come back for us to approve the mural? Can we approve a mural? I mean, that's almost like proving context on a billboard.
It's not advertising.
Yeah, you can approve that.
And we've approved the artwork on other buildings.
Okay.
And I think it's an integral part of what's going to make this facade okay. So I think we need to see it.
All right.
For my notes before we move, well, I'm sorry, go ahead. For my notes before we move forward, are we asking that a condition of approval be that there be additional seating in the rooftop area?
Who made the?
Yeah, I mean,
Tony, was
in
that
my mind, I think that there's another iteration of design that really embellishes those planter boxes and sort of creates a different space up there. And just wrapping it with a ribbon of landscaping doesn't do me. And then part of that would be that is there an opportunity to add seating, not seating, to that area?
Okay.
Yeah, Tony, we can look at that.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay. So is that a condition that you make those changes, or is this a comment?
Is that sort of staff?
Let's make sure that we understand what our motion is.
Do we want them to
motion,
come back with that? Oh, go ahead, Bob. Sorry.
Let's make a motion to approve the design subject to the applicant coming back with the final design for the artwork, murals, the lighting of that, and the seating on the upper deck.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion then?
Second.
And I'm going to say that supersedes the previous motion. Okay. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Those opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much, applicants.
Thank you for your time today.
Lewis, let's.
Always good to get rid of a surface parking lot.
There you go. Well, and hopefully that building, Broad Street, will look good.
All right, so the next case is 518 East Broad Street. They're doing exterior building alteration and landscaping. The applicant is returning to the commission with a modified proposal for their parking plaza and vestibule canopy plans. Their 2019 submission called for a new 4-story structured parking garage, plaza, art, and landscaping. It led to the demolition of a warehouse with a mural by Amina Robinson. Sorry, I don't know how to say their name.
Yeah.
The new proposal replaces the parking structure with surface parking, and there are additional changes to the entry plaza, seating terrace, and vestibule canopy areas. So our analysis is there is considerable emphasis at the previous meetings placed on providing art to replace the lost mural. The previous submission incorporated a large projecting mural on the south elevation of the parking garage. However, there is no art as part of this submission. As you know, the guidelines state that surface parking should be limited. The proposal will result in 542 surface parking spaces north and east of State Auto, with an additional 246 spaces across Broad Street, for a total of approximately 792 surface parking spaces and 7 acres of surface parking between East Long Street and Oak Street. Furthermore, staff has concerns regarding the parking lot screening along North 11th Street and North Washington Avenue, as it does not meet the guidelines. So in summary, for these reasons, while the vestibule canopy plaza areas generally meet the building design and plaza guidelines, the proposal does not meet the guidelines with regards to parking. And I have the previous submission as well, if you'd like to take a look at that, what was approved.
Okay. Who's here for the applicants, please?
Mr. Chair, this is Greg Ticchetti. I'm the Chief Information and Strategy Officer for State Auto. Along with me, I have Art Hersey as our Director of Facilities, and some representatives from WSA Studios.
Okay.
And Carmine Russo is here as well from Realm Collaborative Landscape Architect.
Okay, good. Could everybody who is going to testify today, please raise your right hand and swear after me. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do.
I do.
I do.
And would you care, those who said I do, please just very quickly state your names for Lewis, please.
Greg Ticchetti.
Art Hersey.
Art, I think I heard Art Hersey, and then who?
Frank Weaver with WSA.
Natalia Lebanon, WSA.
Carmine Russo, Realm Collaborative.
Okay, Lewis, I hope you're writing fast. You got all those?
I think so, yes.
Keep moving then. Thank you very much. Did you have anything else, Lewis, or do we go to the applicant?
I have some site visit pictures if you'd like to see them.
Maybe let's do those right away so we can look at those, and then we'll go to the applicant.
Okay. Sure. I can share them here. So I'm going to say it's not. Give me a moment. There we go. So these are the some of the images I took of the location. This is all going to be modified as part of their plaza plans. Here you can see the existing entryway to State Auto. This is some of the parking that you see north of the building. This is their existing canopy and vestibule area. Right here, you can see what's existing at the site. And then this kind of gives you an idea of the temporary. So what happened here was when the parking garage was approved, before I took over the downtown commission, they came to Daniel Thomas and they asked him to issue a COA for a temporary parking lot while construction of the parking garage took place. This is the temporary parking lot. They have been issued a temporary COA for this location. And so now with the changes that they're requesting to the landscaping, the plaza space, and the canopy, they're trying to, they're requesting that the temporary parking also be approved to be made permanent parking as part of the proposal. And that's essentially this area right here. So,
okay.
Is there demolition of buildings as part of that request for temporary parking lot?
The previous proposal demolished a warehouse. It was a one-story warehouse in the northeast corner of the site, and that's the building that had the mural by Miss Robinson.
If I recall, that mural was not actually by Amina Robinson, right? It was a
reproduction.
Correct.
Of the design of Amina's.
Neither is actually accurate. Excuse me, this is Greg. It was an homage created by students from Columbus School of Art and Design.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think we've been snookered here, guys. I mean, we approved tearing that building down and losing that mural and the color that it brought to the neighborhood. And now we're being asked to approve a giant, huge, undesigned surface parking lot. Exactly what we're trying to get rid of in downtown.
Mr. Chair, if it pleases the commission, I have some comments that I would like to make to help hopefully clean some of this up.
Please do. Go ahead.
Thank you.
I think we need, excuse me, Greg, I think we need to have a kind of an explanation of that, because what we do is we will allow demolition permits in it literally only in anticipation of building a new building, and the standard is what's there is better than what's, and this that was our understanding, and there were no ifs, ands, or buts, and that's what we did. So now we're in a different situation.
Completely understand, Mr. Chairman, and I'm not happy about the situation that we all find ourselves in, but I'd like to go through a few things if I might.
Oh, please do.
Thank you.
Have the floor.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the commission for their time today. We actually met last on May 25th, 2019, when I presented the plan for the parking garage that we just were talking about. A lot has changed since then, so I'd like to kind of take us through that. But first, I'd like to have a few comments about where we find ourselves. Actually, today is my 5th anniversary with State Auto. I came in with a team 5 years ago to help turn around this company, and we've breathed tremendous rebirth of energy back into this company and more importantly, to our neighborhoods. State Auto has chaired the Heart Walk, which raised over $2 million a few years ago, which was a record at the time. 2019, State Auto Associates have volunteered over 4,500 hours in the communities. We created a program with our neighbor to the east, Amethyst House, to have presents delivered for the children of single mothers, recovering addicts, along with professional pictures for their Christmas albums. I've personally served dinners at Manna Cafe, loaded food into cars at the Ohio Food Bank, and built homes with Habitat for Humanity. Most importantly, I serve on the boards of TechCore and the Columbus State Community College Foundation, where I'm solely focused on creating a pipeline of future technologists for this great city. Since 2016, State Auto has donated more than $3.5 million in charitable donations to the Columbus community, including more than $500,000 for the arts. It's in this context that I'd like to register my strong displeasure with recent publications from the Dispatch, which were hyperbolic, one-sided, and inaccurate. Unfortunately, these inaccuracies include publications from staff of this committee. To set the record straight, and we talked about this when we met in May last year, I met personally with all of our neighbors, including the Art Museum, our neighbors to the north and Franklin Center, and our neighbors with the Columbus State Community College. We specifically discussed this mural, which again was not a Amina Robinson original. If you don't know, Amina bequeathed the rights to all of her art to the Art Museum. Representatives of the Art Museum were in attendance and had no concern with the destruction of the mural in the warehouse. Columbus State Columbus School of Art and Design, whose students made the homage, also registered no concern. Even though there was no registered concerns from any of our neighbors, as we discussed last May, I brought up the idea of having a projection on the side of the new garage. While I'm not happy that my CEO just decided that he had a bad feeling and did not want to move forward with the garage, there was no intent to deceive this committee, and any implications to the contrary are just inaccurate and very hurtful to me. I understand the commission's perspective, but there was, again, we invested a lot of time in this plan. I would not have wasted your time or my time presenting it last May, and we presented, if you recall, once before that. We are in the process of almost $70 million of modernization of our corporate headquarters. We're bringing more than 400 additional associates on top of the 800 that we currently have on this site. We've committed to downtown Columbus. We did not do what a lot of other companies do and go pit cities against each other to try to get tax breaks. We've been a member of this community. Next summer will be our 100th anniversary. And we're proud to say that we will continue to be a member of the downtown Columbus community. In a moment, I'm going to ask Frank from WSA to take the committee through this current request. But I felt, Mr. Chair, the need to express how passionately upset I am about some of the implications that have been in the press and some of the materials from the committee. I apologize if I've been too emotional, but this is a serious situation for me personally. I've invested a lot of my time and energy to try to save this company, and I feel very badly that the plan that we presented was changed by my CEO. That's his discretion as the CEO, but there was no intent to snooker anybody.
Thank you very much. Okay, who else goes next then from the applicant, please?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Frank Weaver at WSA. We are excited to present this revised plan today along with Realm Collaborative. We're interested in feedback and gaining consensus so that we can push this plan forward. I do want to note that the overall site plan and the new entry is part of a larger project. We are starting an overall complete redesign of the pavilion building, and the new lobby and entrance and site plan are a major component of that success of that project. I am going to directly turn this over to Carmine Russo, our landscape architect with Realm, and let him run you guys through this package, and we'll be available for comments directed towards the canopy and entrance vestibule.
Hey guys, can I ask a question before we go? Because I don't quite understand this, and maybe I'm not looking in the right place on all the application materials. How many parking spaces do you have now? And when you're done with this proposal, if it is approved, how many will there be there? How many parking spaces are in place right now as we speak?
So, go ahead, Carmine.
Yeah, this is Carmine Russo with Realm Collaborative. We're the landscape architects and the campus designers on this. We actually sent in a new diagram that depicts this because I think there was a
792, is that the answer?
Yeah, that's the answer, and there was some discrepancy about that in the report, so we wanted to clarify that. So it's 792 currently.
And how many will you have if this thing were approved?
The second slide, or slide number 2, is 765. So we end up losing parking, and I think the thing that you notice is because we have the temporary lot, which is in that cream color there, doesn't have any landscaping currently, doesn't have the pedestrian promenade. When you start to add all of the amenity space for landscaping, you end up losing some of that parking. And so that's really what we're trying to do, is improve the lot so that it fits within the current campus design.
Okay.
So,
okay. So you have now 792 spaces. If this thing were approved, you end up with 765. Is that correct? That's
correct.
Okay. Would you go ahead and do your presentation, please?
Sure, I will. We'll try and be brief, but we'd like to clarify some of these points because I think there was some discrepancy. So as Greg mentioned, when they got us back involved and we understood this new reality that the garage wasn't going to be there, we really wanted to make sure that we were being consistent with the guidelines and also creating pedestrian connections to the neighborhood. We knew that was important before. We last were in front of you in October for our final site design, so that was approved at that time. If you look at slide number 1, the design objectives still remain the same. There's a few things we do need to do. We, want to adjust the visitor drop-off to the north side of the building, of the existing building, because of all of the work that's happening interior to the building, which Natalia will talk about the new canopy later in this presentation. Because we are now with a surface parking lot, we need to make some adjustments and meet the stormwater management code for the city, which is something we're working closely with Kleinger's on this, which is a priority. Again, realigning that exterior to work with the new entry points to the building. And then lastly, again, the outdoor amenity space shouldn't be underscored because, not every company is doing this in a downtown setting, but it's important to State Auto that they make connections with the community. And we really tried to keep that design that we had intact without the garage. So if you go to slide 2, some of the adjustments that we're going to make to that site plan is the existing pedestrian promenade that runs sort of halfway through the lot today. We want to connect that all the way up to Boone Street and really create a nice pedestrian space that's lined with trees that lead you into the employee entry to the north side of the building. We really tried to keep intact that pedestrian entry plaza that connects from Washington and the Art Museum, both visually and physically for people. And if you'll notice, as we go to slide, I think we're on number 2 still.
Now, is that the one, is that the walk that goes just in front of the building? Or are you talking about the thing you're calling the Discovery District Art Walk?
I'm talking about the what says new entry plaza that will connect from the sidewalk of Washington. The Discovery District Art Walk is also something that we're trying to enhance and preserve through the parking lot. So it only exists sort of on the west side there, and then it becomes defragmented as it gets to the east side of the lots. And so we're going to improve that and add islands there as well so that the experience is lined with trees and paved with the same pavers as it exists to get you through to 11th. And so the other part, and now I'll go back to the entry plaza, which we'll talk about in a moment, but we've also created a new auto court to the east, which, if you recall, back in October, we were talking about an auto court along Washington. We've adjusted that as well. So that's part of the framework adjustment that we made. If you go to slide number 3, the construction will be broken up into 2 phases, and phase 1 is going to be done next year, which makes all of those adjustments that need to be made for meeting the stormwater requirements, getting the visitor drop-off to function, and getting all of the entry points into the building to work. And then phase 2 will follow very quickly the following year, and which will be the plaza and the pedestrian spaces along Washington. Slide number 4 is just the enlargement of those areas, and you can see them a little bit better. But there's flexible plaza space that we're proposing out at Washington that leads to the entry promenade through to the front door. The seating terrace still exists as it did before. One of the things that we really tried hard on this one, with the garage not being there, we really wanted to create a northern edge to the plaza spaces. So there was what we call the green buffer, the green bar, which you'll see in the renderings in a moment. But as you pass through that green alley of trees, that's where you get into the pedestrian spaces, and it removes you from the parking. We also wanted to create a tree-lined parking or entry drive that leads you from Washington through to 11th. So we've removed that drive as it exists today and pushed it a little bit further away from the building to create all those amenity spaces. So if you go to slide number 5, now, you know, the entry plaza that we were just discussing off of Washington is going to be open to the sidewalk. It's going to be, you know, a public space. We've outlined the area in red as the art opportunity area. We're not ready to present that to you yet. I know that State Auto internally has been speaking with all of the downtown organizations about how to integrate art in a meaningful way in this area. I think the other discussion has been that it may not be permanent, but it could be an exhibit that changes throughout the seasons, whether it's quarterly or, you know, every 6 months is still yet to be determined. But I believe that we'll come back to this commission each time that something's proposed there. But they really feel strongly about having something there that connects with the art museum and that is open to the public. When we call it flexible, it's going to be wired. It's going to have electricity for food trucks, for tent events, and all things of that nature. So they really want it to be an active space. If you move to slide 6, this is just the hardscape. Again, this should look very familiar to you if you were to pull up the old presentation from October. Many of these elements are still in existence, and so it's important that we preserve them. One of the things that we are doing is we're using a buff wash concrete on the ground plane now. We're going to use an integral color, charcoal color, to still highlight the area of the promenade space. If you recall before, we had talked about using pavers there, but we've had to adjust because of some of the budget items. But that's maybe one difference you'll notice from back then. The other thing you'll notice that might be different is in red, the retaining walls that we needed on the inside of the plaza, we had to wrap around to the north side to help, contain that landscaping. So those were just a few minor adjustments we had to make, but everything else is still very consistent. So if you go to page 7, all the materials are there. Many of those very similar from before. Page 8 with the landscaping, this is a little bit more about what I was talking through. On the north side there, you can see the alley of trees that lines what we call the entry drive boulevard as people come off of Washington. You can also see the alley on the north side of the plaza spaces that pedestrians will pass through. There will be a raised crosswalk area that exists today, and we're just going to rebuild it a little bit further north into the lot. And page 9 goes through all the landscaping. Again, almost exactly the same plant palette as we had in October. I think we added 1 or 2 new plant species up to the beds, but very consistent with what we had approved back then. Page 10 just goes through all the furniture that we'll be putting out there. Again, very similar to before. We did add a new bench seat, which is seat number 4, which is in the flexible plaza space. So if you go to page 11, you can see bench number 4, the wood top seat, but everything else is the same as what we had previously. Page 12 then goes through all the lighting. We still have a pedestrian level light, up lights in the tree areas, and then a parking lot light, which is in orange. And those items are all listed on slide 13. And then the renderings from slide 14 on, again, it looks at the plan view, the seating terrace, the promenade space, the flexible plaza out at Washington. You will note on Washington, we're calling out a monument sign. WSA is currently working on that design. We have some schematics, but we're not ready to present that and ask for approval today, but that will be in another submittal in the future. But you'll see some of that in some of these renderings as placeholders. A view again of the bird's eye of Washington on page 15. 16 is the plaza flexible space with the potential for food trucks. The Kogo station will still exist there and be relocated. You can see the pedestrian level lighting, the bollards that signify the edge of where that plaza space would be and where the trucks would stop. You can see under the trees, the tree bosk area and the benches there that we had previously. Slide 18 has the seating terrace. Plaza looking back towards the art museum, you can faintly see some of the art in their lawn in the front of their building. And then the tree bosk and the benches under there in slide 19. So hopefully you could see the vitality of the space. There's about 5 or 6 different ways to sit out here, whether you want to do outdoor working or eat your lunch. And so that's really important to keep these spaces active. Slide 20 then gets you in. Now we start to enlarge the auto court area, which if you recall, we had a small auto court along Washington the last time we presented. We relocated that now to the east side. And the reason being, if you see where the building is, the visitor entry and everything that's being reworked on the interior, this much more aligns with that. So the pedestrians to the north lots, all the employees will walk down the promenade and enter in where it says employee entry. Off of the auto court, the little darker paved area there would be the front door to the visitors, and then having all the parking in that drop-off auto court. Slide 21 then just goes through all the materials which are consistent with the plaza. We try to keep everything to feel very consistent across the board. So slide 22 will speak to the different concrete finishes. We are going to be using asphalt as a consistent material from all the parking into that drop-off. Slide 23 then speaks to the trees and the landscaping. Again, in this area, we'll be keeping that alley of trees coming all the way up through to the front of this auto court. So these are one-way drives for clarification, driving into the auto court to try to slow traffic down and keep it pedestrianized, and drive back out to 11th on the east side there. Slide 24 then just speaks to all the different plant material we're using. Consistent with our approved submittal in October, we're using the Sienna Glen maple on 11th as a street tree and bringing that all the way up through 11th, which we'll show you a view of that in a moment. All of the on slide 25, all the site furnishings are consistent all the way through here. So, you know, pedestrian level lighting, parking lot light, and lighting in the trees. We have bicycle racks near the front door, again, for pedestrians being close to the front door, and some of the bollards at the drop off there where there's going to be a flush curb condition for cars to drop people off. And slide 26, all of the different materials. If you look at slide 27, then the rendering from above, you start to see at the bottom there, which Natalia will speak to in a moment, the new canopy that's going to be extending off of the building, a new modern look, and a cover with a green roof on it. But you can also see how that drop off is going to function with the ADA parking near the door, and how the one-way traffic moves back out onto 11th. Slide 28 then gives you a good bird's eye view of what that entry boulevard will look like as you come off of 11th or Washington at the far end of the image. You get the overview of, you know, the promenade with the food truck there closer to that art museum, and as you come all the way through, how that's all open, public, pedestrian space and connectivity, and the front door to the arrival visitor entry. Slide 29 then would just be a closer view of that coming off of 11th as you drive in. There will be a wayfinding sign there, and again, we'll come back to the commission when those are finalized. But slide 30 is an important slide for us, which we added recently this week. We wanted to show a view of what the 11th Avenue streetscape would look like. This was approved back in October, so we didn't change our approach to this. And we feel strongly about it, I know State Auto does, to try to keep the edges of the campus feeling open and not adding a lot of walls and fences, but using vegetation to create the buffer for cars. So we have about a 3 to 4 foot hedge there. It's going to be evergreen. These street trees would be the maples that I just mentioned in the tree lawn. We're going to be building a new sidewalk here that doesn't exist today. So really trying to create a nice pedestrian edge without a lot of walls and barriers. And again, this was approved and is consistent with what we had back in October. Slide 31 then is just showing you that green edge as people would, you know, come from the parking and enter into the plaza spaces. And so it's really that alley of trees, and it really signifies your entry into the campus. And slide 32 is the auto court and how that will function. Views all the way to the art museum, as you can see in the distance. Slide 34 then would just be an aerial of that canopy, which we'll talk about in a moment, and the plaza. And slide 33 then, from a site perspective, is just that view as you're coming down that pedestrian promenade from the employee parking, entering into the front door every day as an employee. So Natalia, I think you can speak then to some of the materials on the canopy.
Go to the next slide, please. Right, so the materiality of the vestibule, it's a structural silicone glazed storefront, optical gray in color to match the existing building glazing. There's a black metal panel overhang and a painted steel structure. And then the green roof itself is alliums and sedums. The canopy itself, the architecture is minimalist. It's really just an expression of the interior function of the space. It organizes the main access of the employee entry straight into the building, and then helps direct visitors towards a secure vestibule. And then the green roof itself is an outward commitment to green initiatives on state level. And then the following slides are key renderings from different perspectives.
Okay. Any other comments or any from the applicants? Any questions from the commissioners?
I have a question about the Discovery District Art Walk. And I'm wondering, first of all, when there was going to be a parking structure, how was the art walk going to be rerouted, if at all?
Yeah, so at that time, we had talked about rerouting it around the garage to Boone Street. And then that's how people were going to make that connection. So in a sense,
Okay.
we have today is more of a preservation of what exists.
My only question is because it's going through the parking lot, and I really wouldn't know if you felt that maybe that would be difficult with cars going back and forth, that maybe thinking about rerouting it might give you an opportunity to have that, to have that walk not being imposed by the cars, and then maybe also an opportunity to add public art along wherever you would reroute it. It's just a thought, because I don't know if you feel that how you have it now, just bisecting through the lot, would be somewhat distracting or difficult with cars moving back and forth.
Are you thinking about through the pedestrian walk right in front of the building?
Yeah, I mean, you could possibly route it south that way. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking either south at that new pedestrian walk or north at Boone. But I was thinking that might be a way to have that art walk not going through a parking lot, and also then affording opportunity to have public art along that for, state auto, for people for the general public, and enhancing it that way. And then, of course, within the parking lot itself, still making sure that you have, landscaping and breaking it up, not, well, but just maybe not having that walk going right through a parking lot with all those cars, and the fact that the cars are going to be traveling north and south within the lot.
Louis, could we have the site plan again, please?
Sure. What page is the site plan on?
2, it's on the second page.
Yeah, page 2.
There you go.
I can see too. Wait, I like the idea of the alignment with Gay Street, because Gay Street goes all the way over to Cleveland Avenue. Well, obviously it goes all the way to the river, but I would, I also like the connection there right in front of the building, the green connection that goes all the way from Washington to 11th. So, and that'll be a nice straight linear line. It looks like it'll be nice and wide. And
I agree, and I think that the art walk alignment with Gay Street and the CCAD and all the other things there, and the connection over to Jefferson Avenue, I think I think it's in the right spot, and I think it helps to break up the giant parking lots with something a little bit more interesting. I don't think there's that much ongoing traffic up and down the lane, the aisles in the parking lot, maybe at the quitting time or in early morning or whatever. But I think that actually helps the site plan quite a bit.
You gotta, I mean, with all due respect, you have to walk through the parking lot to get to your car anyway.
Right.
At time, wherever you are. Okay, there's a comment for you. Are there any other comments from Commission?
Yeah, this is Danny. With its close proximity to the Columbus Museum of Art, and there are times, depending on what the exhibit or exhibits are, you get a lot of traffic, and it's a challenge to find parking even at the museum. Is there an agreement or a potential agreement to utilize some of your parking spaces in connection with the Museum of Art? And if not, what would you do to prohibit people from using your parking to go to the museum?
Let me make a quick comment on that, because I've been pretty involved with the art museum here recently. These are wonderful neighbors. You almost can't get a better neighbor than these guys. So this institution has been a very, very good neighbor to the art museum.
To answer your question, Commissioner Palmore, yes, we do today make our parking lot available to the museum, and that would not change with this proposal. We try to be good neighbors all the time, and I tried to go through some of the things we do earlier. I know Congresswoman Beatty's going to have an event on in our parking lot coming up in a few weeks. So we do take our responsibilities in the community very seriously.
Okay, yeah, and I guess Shannon Harden just recently had an event.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that was a good event. So thank you so much for that, Greg.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Are there other questions or comments?
You talked about the 2 phases. Are we approving both phases at this point? The whole design that we're seeing, is that the request?
Yes, that's the request.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any questions, anyone from the audience or the public? Anything more from the applicant? Could I have a motion, please?
I'll move to approve the application.
And is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Annie?
Got 2 of them.
Are there any other comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will say,
Thank you.
I think this is, you know, we don't get up in the morning and look for surface parking lots, but this is very, what it's worth, it's very nicely done, very high quality, and it reads well over there. So let's move on to the next case, please.
Thank you.
All right, the next case is case C3 was withdrawn, so it won't be part of this this discussion. So C4, 404 East Broad Street, they're here for graphics, statue, and lighting. The applicant is proposing improvements to Washington Gladden Social Justice Park, consisting of park signage and a 10-foot tall stainless steel sculpture. Both projects were presented conceptually at the August 27th, 2019 meeting, but their designs have been refined. Bronze signs should be made of durable, high-quality building materials, and the integration of art in parkland is encouraged. The proposal generally meets the guidelines with regards to graphics and art.
Okay. Who are the applicants for this project, please? Are they present? Is the applicant here then? Do you know who were you expecting, Lewis?
Tom Worley, I see him.
Oh, Tom?
Yes.
Tom, are you muted? You might be muted.
Um,
Tom, I need to swear you in. Are you online with us here?
I can hear you.
You can hear us?
I hear him now.
Okay. Tom, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do.
I do.
Okay, thank you. Let's proceed. Oh, there's Tom. Okay, good. I was going to say we'll proceed even if we can't see him because we can hear him. So let's go with it. Lewis, do you have any comments here for us on this one?
No, I mean, it generally meets the guidelines. I visited the site. You can see some of the images I took. Here's the park. You can see here's the mural. The statue will be going in this corner, the sculpture, right around here. And this is the area where the sign will be placed. It was viewed conceptually, like I said, last year, but they just came in with refined designs.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and walk us through this, Tom, and kind of fill us in a little bit on what you're looking for, and we'll go from there.
You're seeing slide 1, which is a depiction of the sculpture. The name of the sculpture is Single Garment of Destiny, which picks up from Martin Luther King Jr.'s quote from the letter of Birmingham jail of how we're all interconnected and what affects one affects us all. The artist is Julian Voss Andre from Portland, Oregon. Also, in terms of this presentation, when it was provided in August of last year, we indicated that the unique aspect of the sculpture is at a particular angle at the corner. When you look through it, it's like looking through a bread slicer and the object becomes invisible. But on its side, you see the full profile of the 6 images, showing a diverse group of individuals, representing not just who we are as a community, but also to recognize for those who may be viewed as facing struggles, being abused, homeless, and such, become invisible to us, but yet they are still there. We believe this sculpture best reflects what a social justice park should be, and that is the basis for the sculpture.
How did you choose the artist, for curiosity's sake, Tom?
We had a national solicitation. We had an art panel that included Nanette Macy-Junes, Loanne Crane, also Melanie Korn from the Art Museum, and other representatives from the park. And so we had finalists. The finalists came out on site and interviews, and in the end, Julian Voss-Andre and his wife, Adriana, who's a social justice activist, were chosen.
Thank you.
It's going to be stainless steel. It'll be 10 feet high. It'll sit on a base plate that's a 6-foot diameter. And it will be at the corner of Cleveland and Broad, but back off at the sidewalk and away from the city right-of-ways. Yeah, both for protection of the sculpture as well as for the best location for this particular design.
Okay.
We have a second item that is a sign, but before moving to that, if there's any questions with regard to the sculpture.
I just had one. So the base plate is flush with the ground. Is that correct?
I think so. There may be a couple inches of concrete exposed, but with grass around it, you won't see it.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out. I'm looking at 2 different site plans, and is what's built there without including the statue, the sculpture, is that what's there now? In other words, the sidewalks, the curvilinear sidewalks, and everything. Can you go to the picture of the site plan, Louis?
Yeah.
I think it's page 11 is what I'm looking at. It almost looks like a survey.
That's the first page, yes. Page 13 may show the details a little bit better, but
okay,
either
yes,
one.
good. Okay, so let's look at page 13. Where specifically is this statue going to be? Is it where that circle is right there?
Yes.
Okay, so just to the right of that and above it is there's a kind of a curvilinear sidewalk. Is that in place?
They're actually not sidewalks. Those are in place. There are 3 grass terraces that are each 6 inches higher off the plaza until you reach back up to a higher level where this corner is. In addition, the corner has a bit of a mounding effect to it. So there's like another maybe 1 foot higher than grade there where the sculpture will be placed.
Okay.
And there, maybe the photos would be helpful of the location. And that is slide 5.
And what is the edging then? I forget, between the terraces then.
There's a 6-inch concrete curved curb between each edge of the terraces.
Okay, and that's what I'm having trouble seeing that in the photos, I guess. But okay, that was my question on that. And go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You were going to go on to your second part of your request.
Well, I wanted to make sure I covered any of the questions on the sculpture first before moving to the park sign.
Any more questions for Tom for that?
I think it's a great addition.
I think we're all set on this one there, Tom. So
thank you. In terms of the sign, slide 7. This both gives a depiction of the sign. It is approximately 9 feet wide if you include the 2 18-inch square foot pillars. Its height varies between the north pillar and the south pillar because there's a grade change where the sign is located. And that varies between a height of 53 inches and a height of 59 inches. It's a two-sided sign. It will be lit by two lights on floodlights on each side of the sign.
And what's the material on the sign then?
Material will be as close as we can match Leshimini granite, which is the granite that's used next door on the church. To get a sense of what that looks like, that's slide 10 is a copy of the photo of the church. We do want to have some interconnection.
How about the sign itself, the lettering?
And we're working through Delaware quarries, but even in their varied stone product, the specific lines that they have available doesn't exactly match. So we're trying to get a mix and match between a couple of their line of varied stone granite products to best match what is on the church, which is a combination of gray and rust and tan. So we're hoping, and we did tell the sign company we did not want a veneer. We want to have actual 2, 3, 4 inch width stones used to create the pillars. So to best match the varied look and not a pattern look that is on the church surface that is next door to the park.
I think that's great. How about the sign itself, please, and the letters?
There's a vinyl application to the sign. The sign is aluminum in terms of its framework and placement. It's 34 inches by 72 inches in exposure. It's 76 inches wide. There's a 2-inch channel that is in the middle of each of the pillars. So to give a more flush look to this sign. And the logo that you see on the sign is the logo that's used for the park, for all of its stationery or any of its other programs and activities.
Okay.
Is the aluminum painted a color or is it
It's an off-white.
It is white?
Off-white background. And the letterings will vary between 4 inches and 6 inches in size and height.
Okay. Any other for the applicant, please? Any comments? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the sculpture as designed and located and the signage as designed and located.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Okay, any other comments, questions from the applicant or from the commission? Anything from the public? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? That carries unanimously. Tom, thank you very much.
Great
Thank
job.
you
You're approved.
very much.
Okay, great. Well, we'll look forward to seeing it. Louis, is there any other business for the commission?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I think there was something going on with my audio and I didn't get an opportunity to make sure everybody heard this. But on the state auto vote, they are correct about their comments about public participation. And my wife is having an event there. So could the record show that I tried to recuse myself from that vote?
I tried to recuse. He did his best job he could.
Still learning.
We'll blame it on technology, which is something I have a lot of trouble with too. So I'm
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We'll give him credit for that one.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
By the way, you're right. Those guys are very good public citizens, and I'm inclined to think that you know, these corporations we deal with, they make changes. And so anyway, for what it's worth, it's not like we're starting off with 300 spaces and we just approved 800. So it's kind of what's there. So at any rate, thank you. Any other comments about anything then?
So quickly, I don't believe we ever approved the record of action from the last meeting.
Okay. That is effectively the minutes. Could I have a motion to approve the record of action, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions, comments, additions, deletions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, does that keep us official, Louis?
Yeah, and then the last thing we need is the staff issued certificates of approval. If someone wants to make a motion to enter that into the formal record.
Okay. Lance High Street. Anything on that we need to know about? Anything that was?
I think it was mostly just ad mural. Someone added a pergola, so nothing much. No, one small sign at 553 East Town Street.
What's the pergola, North 3rd Street?
They have a parking garage on 110 North 3rd Street. I think it's about 4 stories up. They have a rooftop terrace, and they added a pergola to that rooftop terrace that's not visible from the street or any area.
Oh.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Interesting. Okay, we don't have any comments. Do you want approval of this?
I just need someone to pass a motion to enter into the formal record in a second, and then a vote.
Could I have a motion, please?
I move approval.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor, I say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries. Okay, guys, I'm sorry. We did it again. It took us, good grief, 2.5 hours. I'm sorry about that. We kind of rolled through it though, I guess. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate the time.
Good to be busy.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great job.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.